last met with you, we have gone through another wave of training. We've welcomed 9 more schools to the Suffolk Our Schools Our World hub. So there's a list of those new schools up on the screen. So Caroline, you're representing Wenneston. So you're currently our only second cohort school on the call at the moment. I think others are planning to join at some point. Very, very welcome. We hosted it again at St Joe's, and again the sun shone. It was beautiful, really showed off the campus, and it was a really inspiring 3 days. Jonathan joined us for the first 2 days, and then Nigel from Let's Go Zero joined us on the 3rd day, along with Jenna from the National Education Nature Park. Great discussion, really inspiring discussion, enthusiasm, great ideas. Lots of practical ideas as well, talking about logistics in different school settings. So really, really excited to grow the hub and welcome those schools. So just to show you, because it's very satisfying to see it as a full list, that makes us 23 in total. 23 primary schools across the county have signed up for this programme. And it might be worth just having a look actually across that list to see if there's a neighbouring school, a school that perhaps you might want to do a little bit of networking independently of these networking meetings, perhaps a neighbour, perhaps you share an interesting landscape that you might want to think about including when it comes to looking at the biodiversity theme or others. There is a link on the website which shows where you are all geographically. So you can look up and see who your nearest neighbour might be. And we've got a really nice spread actually right across the county. We do need to try and get some schools signed up from Sudbury Haverhill area, but generally really, really nice spread of schools in different landscapes and different areas, different districts. So really excited to see what networking opportunities come from that. So I wanted to start the session today with some good news because the programme is solutions focused. It's about sharing with young people all the innovation and the creativity and the hard work and the successes that are happening in the field of sustainability. And I think it's easy actually to lose sight of those and not hear them in the clatter of less positive news stories. So from a global point of view, global renewable energy generation has surpassed coal energy generation, which is a fantastic milestone to have crossed, heading in the right direction, perhaps a little bit too slowly, but definitely heading in the right direction. And also, if you watched the recent Earthshot Prize, it was held in Brazil just before the COP30 began. You might have seen that the Global Ocean Treaty, or the High Seas Ocean Treaty, has been passed into law and was a prize winner. And this will protect waters that lie outside national boundaries and will contribute towards the global 30 by 30 aim of protecting biodiversity, 30% of land and sea protected for biodiversity. The national picture, so air pollution in London has fallen. So the legal limit for the first time in 2024. So, you know, there's lots of work happening in London. Some of it's slightly controversial, but it's having a really positive impact on the air quality there. And for any bird spotters and fans of our seabirds, there was a record number of little terns born on a Norfolk beach. So I think this species is particularly vulnerable because they are ground nesting, so it's easy to disturb. So there's lots of conservation efforts, and obviously they've resulted in a real positive there. And then looking even more locally at Suffolk, plug-in Suffolk charge points have begun to be installed across the county, and plug-in car clubs have been launched. So this might be something really nice to mention to your students and maybe get them to do a little bit of I Spy to see if they can see any of these charging units or any of these cars on the road. Begin discussion about initiatives like car clubs. You know, do cars always have to be, do we have to have our own ownership of a car? What benefits come from a car club? You could even build in some sort of town planning. Where would be a good location for us? What would be the best local location for us to have a charging unit or a car club? Get them thinking about initiatives in that line. And then also just wanted to point out that Stowmarket Town Council held an excellent environmentally themed family fun day. I don't know if any of your families visited it, but it's just really nice to see what communities are doing for young people to encourage this sustainable thinking as well and partner up with the initiatives that are part of the programme. Okay, so I also wanted to give you a bit of a snapshot. So I had the real privilege of visiting in person all of the schools from the first cohort. That was a 2-hour meeting where we talked about the framework, we talked about the initial stages of implementing the programme, any initial challenges and successes, and it was genuinely a real privilege to go in and see all of your settings, all of the wonderful work that you're already doing, which I hope you've already recorded on your audits. And just to hear the fantastic plans that you had in place. I mean, the enthusiasm was still really high from the training day, and that was really positive to see. Lots of schools are using that framework as the backbone of all their planning. So some schools had dated all of their initial actions, some had gone through and tried to put a date against all of the actions. I think generally people found the framework as it was sequenced in a logical way. They found it easy to work through those actions as they were outlined in the framework. Hi, Liz. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Good to see you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm late. I couldn't find the link.
Oh, apologies. No, it's a bit, when we do webinars, it's a bit round the houses because it sends you to a registration page rather than straight there. So yeah, we're very pleased you're here.
I'm pleased to be here as well.
The surveys seem to be used quite successfully. So schools were generally at different stages with using them. Some had used them with the students, some had sent them home. We'll talk a little bit more about those and how to really optimize engagement with those later. But definitely the feedback was that they provided an opportunity to hear student voice and community voice. And they're also really useful in planning which themes schools wanted to take in which order to decide or to discover where the interest really was, and to which themes to run with first. Also the audits, that was another tool that comes with the programme. Again, lots of schools found those really helpful. They ask questions and really help direct thinking in the different thematic areas. Really great to see that lots of schools are able to tick off lots of those questions and either we've done it or we're in the process of doing it. And there was a different approach taken by schools. So some schools were doing the audits one topic at a time to fit in with the themes that they were delivering to the whole school. Some schools had decided to look at all of the audits all in one go to help them decide again which order they wanted to deliver the themes in. So however you use those is entirely up to you, but it was really nice to see that they have been useful and schools are adapting how they use them for their setting. They do take quite a little bit of work, and I think that was also the feedback about the Count Your Carbon calculator. Collecting data is quite a task, and it did involve lots of members of staff, so there was lots of coordination and collaboration happening there. So again, choosing where in the school calendar it's helpful for you to do those audits is definitely worth thinking about and plotting into your calendar. Interestingly, I think nearly all of the schools from our first cohort ran with waste for their first topic for various reasons. So some really wanted to kickstart their new pre-loved uniform shed. So thought waste and consumption would be a really great way to introduce that. For others, it was about establishing school rules, introducing new recycling bins, introducing processes in class. We use scrap paper before we do things in neat. We use all of our books. We finish our books from the previous year. This year, we're only using pencils. We're not using plastic pens. We've got a new system for gluing sheets in. So waste was definitely the most popular. With lots of schools thinking about doing energy next term. Obviously, as it gets colder and darker and energy use creeps up, that seemed like a nice opportunity to introduce energy. I think definitely schools are thinking about biodiversity for the summer, because why wouldn't you? It's lovely to be outside. But yeah, really interesting actually to to share what topics are done where and how well that worked. And I'll make sure we've got a bit of opportunity so you can feedback on that later. In terms of greening the curriculum, again, schools were taking different approaches with this. So with one school, the head teacher was the lead in geography. So she decided to lead by example and model this process by looking at the geography curriculum first and then rolling it out and asking other curriculum leads to do similar. Some schools had a scheme of work or a curriculum template, and they'd actually added an Our Schools, Our World section to that just to make sure they were prompting that thinking. Could we change the subject of study here? How can we introduce some ideas around sustainability or environmental climate education? And again, a bit later, it'll be really interesting to hear if you found some wins with that, some nice ways, some hacks of doing that and bringing more sustainability into the current curriculum. And also perhaps what the reception's been in your wider staff team, if people have been quite open to doing that, if they've found that quite challenging, that would be really interesting to hear. In terms of school operations, so in the review, lots of schools I discovered had engaged with the Count Your Carbon calculator and were working really hard on gathering the data. Sometimes there were a couple of obstacles, and it would be that data was held with a particular staff member and it was just trying to relay the request and then receive the information. It was often difficult where the trust held a lot of that data and trying to extract that data. But lots of schools reporting that, again, along with the auditing, it was asking really interesting questions and revealing lots of areas where they were doing really well or areas that they wanted to focus on through their themes and through their pledges with their school community. And then climate action plans. So most of the schools had a good draft up and running of their climate action plan. And I don't say that to cause a panic if you're not in that position at the moment. But it does mean that we've got a wealth of insight into good ways of going about that. We've got some good templates. We'll have some more exemplars to share with you. But it was just really positive to see how, through the auditing and the carbon calculator, people were starting to think about practical plans and actions to put in their climate action plan. So then I really just wanted to again, just show some snapshots. So apologies if your school doesn't appear on this photo reel, depending on where when I visited, I was able to take pictures or not. But I just wanted to share a couple of really lovely examples of action. So this is a picture from Kingsfleet, Kirsty, from your school, and it's actually on the ground at the entrance to the school. So it's open to the public. And it's a project, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kirsty, it's a project with edible Felixstowe. So these planters, they're growing a crop, and as parents and people in the local community pass and students, they can tend to the crops, they can look after them, they can see them growing. And the containers that you can see on the image there were filled with water by the school team, so that because there wasn't a hose accessible nearby, people could actually engage in water and take care of those crops. Did you get a good harvest, Kirsty?
It was amazing. We had the children, so we had courgettes, and we had quite a lot of courgettes, which the children, we've got some great pictures. I mean, they actually grew really well, and such an amazing crop of tomatoes, far better than the one I had at home. So, staff would be going out and picking them. We had our midday supervisors picking them, the children and their families were picking them. But it's really, we had some potatoes as well. So it's gone really well. And members of our community, our next step is obviously it's a community garden. So the idea is it's there so people can access it. So some grandparents have been coming, helping us on their way to their allotment just to keep after it. But we have started to, thought that actually we plant some herbs and things because the kitchen had thought that might be a nice thing that they could do. But it's worked better than I expected. I expected it all to go a bit, maybe not work. That's not really very positive, is it? But it exceeded my expectations. It was brilliant.
Oh, that's brilliant to hear. Yeah, and what a visual way as well to share with the community the things that your school is working on as well. I really, really liked it. This is a colourful snapshot from Birchwood. So these bins are all different recycling bins. Now, I would say some of this would be hard to replicate because much of it depends on a couple of very dedicated members of staff who actually take the recycling to various drop-off units. But just brilliant to see the variety of materials that can be recycled. So I think there was a container for baby bell wrappers, there was one for bras, there was one for glasses. So just a real, and the community could access this as well. So just a really good way of seeing what materials can be reclaimed and reused. And then the colourful fridge there is actually a store for pre-loved books, because as Sarah there mentioned, it's the perfect container because it's waterproof. So a really nice way to create a bit of a sharing library. Again, this is Birchwood, so they do benefit from quite a large green space, and they've got quite an established school allotment. And they're able to actually give a bed to every class. I think it's a single form entry, so everyone's got their own bed, planting a different crop. And what was interesting in the conversation there was the thought that had been given to the variety of crop and sowing time to ensure that it could be harvested within term time, because that's always a challenge, isn't it? Something that isn't ready and ripe during the school holiday when nobody's around. But yeah, so that was a really nice idea. Caroline, do you want to come in?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know how to turn my mic off, but I can't see any of the pictures. Have you got them on?
Oh, I have. Are you not seeing the shared screen at all?
I'm not seeing them. Is everyone else? Oh, how strange.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Okay,
it.
Yeah, I am.
Perhaps
don't worry.
Rebecca might be able to email you the PowerPoint. So if you're not able to see it on the screen, maybe we can
Okay, that
share
would
it
be
with you
great.
via
Yeah.
email.
Thanks.
I have to just
Okay.
describe them like the radio commentators when I
Can't seem to be able to mute myself either. So maybe you could mute me.
I think we can. Yes, we can.
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah.
Lovely bug hotel, quite a lot of bug hotels, and you can see some bird boxes in progress there. So this was actually part of the Wilder Schools project with the Suffolk Wildlife Trust at Brook Hall School. And what I really liked about this bug hotel, it was actually part of a wilder border. So it wasn't just bed, it was breakfast as well for these bugs. And that ran along the perimeter of the playing field, and it was fenced off to protect all the growing shrubs and vegetation with a gate, so obviously students could access it with supervision and guidance. But it was a wire fence so that students could see through. It was really, really visible. It didn't feel like you were segregated. It wasn't a solid wooden fence. But yeah, brilliant things happening there for their wildlife. There was a hedgehog highway door as well, which had been created by the students, which was a lovely, lovely visual, again, a visual way of what we can do for the wildlife. And one of the things that struck me at all the schools actually was just the creativity and the ingenuity, and it felt like any available space had been planted up and used in some wonderful way. So these examples come from Great Barton. So you've got tyre containers, you've actually got a log that was from a felled tree, had to be cut down, and they've hollowed it out, and that became a planter for herbs. And what really impressed me actually is that all of these areas were accessible to students, but the plants were doing really well. So obviously students had been involved in planting them. They understood that they needed to be nurtured and respected, and they were all doing really, really well. It was a case of planting wherever you could. Really nice display boards going up as well. So thinking about that whole school messaging around the themes and how to deliver that when the school timetable is already so busy, and often there are demands on the assembly content that you have to deliver. So just finding other means to supplement that communication. And there was lots of display boards in prominent areas celebrating outdoor learning, highlighting the school pledge, and looking at the programme as well, and why we're involved in the programme and some of the actions that the school wants to do as part of the programme. So here, I don't know if you can see this, but it's this school had invested in some signs that really inspired outdoor play and encouraged risk taking as well. So this one's about carrying longer sticks. They have an area that's full of branches and twigs, and students can make dens. And it's just, I think it served as a really nice invitation to play. So perhaps where some students hadn't had a lot of experience at playing outside in free play, there were just these invitations of activities that they could do with natural resources that I thought was a really lovely idea. Caroline, can you see the PowerPoint now? Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Sometimes it is just a case of turn it off and turn it back on again, isn't it? Right, so this is really where I'd love to hear from yourselves, advice and recommendations, particularly from cohort 1 for cohort 2, who are beginning to implement this programme in their schools. So any advice around logistics and practicalities, any formats that you used, any ways in to inspire staff that were perhaps a little bit resistant at first. But I'd love to hear about how you delivered your staff training. So when did you do it? Because actually it's quite difficult to capture your whole school team. In the review meetings, lots of people talked about having CPD days in September, but having to think carefully about whether it was a day when they had TAs in, whether they could capture the catering team at the same time. And what worked well with that training? So how did you really introduce this programme to your staff team, your wider staff team? I'd love to hear your feedback on the surveys and how you were able to maximise engagement with that, or maybe how you might do it differently next time. Any challenges you faced with the surveys? And also any feedback on your sustainability working group. So hopefully, I mean, we've all got SPLs here. A couple of people, I think, wearing both the SPL and the head hat. But hopefully you have some other members of your staff team that you're able to meet with and delegate and who are supporting you rolling out this programme. So I think given our number, rather than going to breakout rooms, if everybody's happy, we'll stay as one group. But if we start with staff training, cohort 1 schools, have you been able to deliver the initial training to your whole school team?
I'll go first.
Kirsty.
It seems like a little while ago when we did this, but I think because we looked at it in the summer term, so we had a DD. I used that time, so we had teachers and teaching assistants, support staff in on that day. So we used some of the, as I say, I'm trying to cast my mind back now, some of the slides that we'd got from the training, so we cut together. But I did it in sort of like a tiered approach, because actually you didn't want, it's quite intense and there's a lot to think about, and so you wanted to kind of capture people in, so they were intrigued and they wanted to find out more, and they were, because like we were on our training, your head just goes, oh, we could do this and we could do that, and yeah, we could, and you need to kind of capture that enthusiasm, but then you need to be able to channel it without squashing it. So I was very fortunate that I actually, after that training, I had 3 members of staff came up straight away and said, oh, well, I'm happy to do this in assembly. I'd like to get involved with these things. But I think it's all about timing, and it's all about, I did a main one in the on a PD day, and then I followed it up with little sessions afterwards. So it might have been with teachers, and then I might have done with the support staff that to do it, rather than have a long session, which by the end of it, potentially people start lagging. So yeah, so that's when we did it, and we add it on to, because we're focusing on greening curriculum at the moment, it's part of our staff meeting, a little bit on our staff meeting agenda. Every couple of weeks we'll put that on. I don't know whether that's helpful or not. I'm just trying to remind myself what we did. But the PowerPoints that we got from the training, they were really useful. I just chopped those up and used those, but didn't go into too much depth of detail. I just tried to give an overview. So because then I thought the working team that we've established, they can go into all of the detail of that and then feed it back in a less, in a structured way to people, rather all of the detail all at the same time.
Well, that's a really nice way to introduce it, but then make it a little bit more bite size
Yes,
for
that's
staff.
they're great words. They're great words. Thank you. I was trying to
But
say.
it does take some scheduling to be able to do that as well. So there's some organisation in that. But yes, I think there's a danger of overwhelm, isn't there? So that's a really, really nice approach. Did anyone use any of the videos that were part of the training? Did you find those helpful?
Yeah, we found them really helpful. We found them really helpful. I just found them helpful to motivate people and because they were really interesting as well. So I did a staff meeting, an after school staff meeting with the teachers, and then we ran two meetings for support staff to tell them about it too. So we did that sort of during the school day. We've also put a sustainability objective on all of the teachers' performance management this year, so that and a sort of a wide variety of things that scope for what they could do, so they can, it doesn't matter sort of in what aspect they do it, but that it's got to be something to do with greening the curriculum and then an option to run a sort of an environmentally friendly campaign or a project of some sort as well. So some teachers have gone for that. So for example, we've got one of our teachers has made it a mission to get the children involved in making bird feeding stations and also selling bird feeding things at the Christmas fair as well, and that. So we've sort of gone through that in a variety of ways.
Oh, that's a really nice campaign. So that's sort of is it cascade? Is that the word where you train some and then they train others? And oh yeah, again, I think it's just making that training manageable, isn't it? But I do love the idea of having the performance management targets to keep that focus on the themes and the sustainability objectives of the program. That's a really nice idea. Any other tips for staff training? Or anything not to do, and any videos that didn't go down well? That's good. I'm taking that as a good sign. What about the survey? So, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it, that's particularly perhaps with the community, because you can capture your pupils in an IT lesson. I know some schools had their pupils complete the survey as part of an IT lesson on an iPad, but sending it out to the community in amongst all the other communication that goes out, sometimes it can get lost a little bit, or you just hear back from those people that are already very interested and motivated. So you get a sort of selection of that community voice. Did anyone find a way to capture your community audience and your staff audience as well? Because again, sending it out in an email when staff have 101 jobs to do, it's very easy for it to keep getting bumped down the to-do list. Did anyone make staff do it before they could leave a staff meeting? Or maybe I don't know how many schools run in-person parents' evenings anymore, but there's always a little bit of a delay time, isn't there? Maybe some iPads during the PTA, not PTA, sorry, parents' evening, so staff could, communities can quickly fill in their responses there.
I was sorry, I was just going to say, Louisa, I think it's always a challenge because it's usually about you get like 30% return when you go out to the school, so it is always quite hard. We've done a project with our year fours, and I'll just casually drop in that in Felixstowe we won the project award, but I've just dropped that in. I'll throw that in there.
Congratulations.
Because we've done that with the year fours and all of the year fours were engaged with that particular project, then they were talking about it with their families at home, so we got quite a good response from them because their children were probably really, you know, they'd really bought into it, they were really invested in it. So when they were going home, we got a lot of parental response from that year group. And I think, so going forward, it's about, I think, trying to make it, because you're right, parents have got lots of things to do, and I don't think it's necessarily that they would go, oh, it's not important to us, it's just, oh, I'll get round to doing that, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, I would never did that. So we were looking at whether we, you know, whether you try and time it so you have got something that the children are interested, or it's pupils who will, or the children who will then take it home to their parents. You've got to hook the children in an assembly, wherever your, you know, whatever your group class activities or whatever, that they will take it home, and it's them kind of like a bit of their job to go home, get your parent, you know, work with your parents, explain, because they might not understand some of this language like you do, and approach it that way. Because otherwise, I think, as you're right, parents have got so many things that we're asking them to do that you just don't get much back. And you do hear from those people who are your grandparents, in fact, those people who go, well, what can I do to come in and help? What can I do? So it also opens up a conversation with them to come in, but you're still not reaching everybody. So I think you've got to have a target of what would be my ideal feedback. And if it falls in line with the normal things we get back when we send out, then we'll call that a win.
Yes, I often say she'd be paid for all the correspondence I have to apply to for my children's school. It's like a part-time job. But yes, that is a really good way to see it. And I really like the idea of the pupils delivering the message at home, actually. And I think Jonathan talked about pester power, but actually it's about having, because that's really what we want, isn't it? We want those dialogues and those conversations to start. So maybe timing it where students have completed a project, or they're reviewing their class pledges, and they're really buzzing with that, is a really, really nice idea. And do you all feel well supported in this programme in your school? Have you got the backing of a working group? You're not taking it on your shoulders solely, because that is really important as part of the programme as well. Got good working groups. Excellent. I mean, that was one of the very first steps on the framework. So I'm glad that those are established, and you have got people to bounce ideas off, but also to share some of the actions with as well. Did anyone else want to feedback with any thoughts about the early stages of implementing the programme at this point?
We're
Sorry.
oh, sorry. I was just going to say I'm a little bit behind the scales because we've launched a new curriculum this year and we've got a new ICT set up as of June. So we're hoping to launch in January. So at the moment we've got to have the governors, and they're very much on board, and we've gone through the action plan and stuff. And every Friday afternoon there's different groups of children that we're actually introducing it to already, although we're kind of ahead of the game, but it's a way of covering PPA. We do other things as well. So I haven't done any of the staff training yet, but we've got that down scheduled for January. So it's trickling in the background, but until we've got the new curriculum in place, I then can't green it up. But hopefully by the end of this term, we should be in a place where we can do that.
Excellent. No, that makes perfect sense. And hopefully some of the advice around staff training has been helpful.
Yeah.
Which topic are you planning to start with, Liz?
I don't know. I know, because I want to get an overview of the whole year. And we're on a 2-year cycle, because obviously yours are in a term, aren't they, each time? So I want to make sure it's the best fit really for going forwards with that.
Excellent. Well, let me know. I'll be really interested to hear. Any questions? So Caroline, representing our cohort 2 schools, do you have any questions, having finished the training about a month and a half ago and having heard a little bit about the first steps of implementing the programme?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. We haven't done any staff training yet. We haven't had the opportunity to fit it in the timetable. But we have really developed the climate action plan. So sorry, that's my dog. Regarding training, not yet, so I can't feedback about that.
Excellent. Well, well done for the climate action plan. It might actually be that when you look at those actions, that helps you determine which themes you want to tackle in which order as well, which are the sort of immediate actions you'd like to address. Which actually, I don't think I've included it as a bullet point later, but this was one of the things I did mean to say, and again, this came out of the review, was that there were so many good ideas. I often found myself saying, slow down, which it feels like a contradiction, really, because we want things to speed up in the direction of sustainability. But I think because we want to take the whole school with us, it is about having a holistic vision for all of the thematic areas and where you want to go as a school, but perhaps approaching them more a few at a time so that you can bring the pupils with you, can try and bring your community with you. And also because then if you really focus on those, you can embed them as a behaviour change. And I think that's again why waste and consumption was quite a nice starting topic, because a lot of that centres around behaviours that are sort of ingrained, but we can revise and change to make improvements. So yes, I'm really impressed by all the fantastic ideas, but I would say don't feel you've got to race through them, because you've got a whole school to bring with you on those actions. So a couple of challenges that came out of the review meeting. One was this idea with the themes of communicating to the whole school simultaneously. And this was a challenge that came out of our smaller schools and our larger schools as well, mostly because assemblies were highlighted by the programme as the main vehicle for delivering the topic to the whole school, but often assemblies already have other requirements that need to be fulfilled. I know a lot of the church schools have a programme that they have to deliver, so there was a lot of competition for assembly time. So if anyone has encountered that challenge and has possible solutions, it would be lovely to hear them. I think some schools suggested those notice boards is a really nice way to deliver a message to the whole school. If you have a little bit of registration time that you could spare to talk about the topic as well, then that might be a nice opportunity. You could even have perhaps student monitors for each of the topics that come in and share some information, so that the information is distributed via your pupils. Definitely delivering information on your topic to your staff so that they can drop it in where it fits in conversations, so that the pupils know the staff are all on the same page. We're looking at water at the moment. You know, we're being reminded when turn the taps off when we're soaping our hands, etc., etc. And also perhaps through the PTA or extracurricular school events, thinking about how that theme could filter in. I mean, I don't know, is anyone in the situation where assembly time is quite valuable and it's quite difficult to dedicate it solely to the Our Schools, Our World? Or has anyone found any other great means of communicating the themes to your whole school?
I think assemblies is a great vehicle for doing that, but that in itself means that it's a great vehicle for communicating lots of things that you need to in school, which then leads to the problem of having a high demand on that time. I think as particularly for us, when we come back in September, a lot of that is setting up our expectations. We talk about our school ethos, what that means, how we be our behaviour choices, and all of those things. So we tried not to get to. I've stressed about it really. I just thought, we know that if you do an assembly and you do an assembly well, you can get that message out to the children. And what we do in our week is we have our main whole school assembly, and then we have a class assembly where they talk about what we've done in assembly, and then the next day they have two classes come together, so it's kind of like part of the oracy thing as well. So then they'll talk about it in a little bit more detail, and then we'll be able to come back together about sharing the ideas that have come from the different classes. So it means that you can really make use of that assembly time. So we had previously planned, before we became part of this project, we had a plan for all of our assemblies linked in to, you know, the SMSC curriculum, the British values, our ethos, through chosen books. But a lot of those books could be adapted to also have a bit of an environmental theme too. So when because we were looking at, we we've kind of we started doing a bit of this summer was all about biodiversity. So I have to say that the first half of this term we carried on that theme, because we just, so we've done so much work on that. We thought this is really getting everybody engaged in this. So we don't want to go, right, okay, we're stopping and we're going to do something else. We're going to carry that going through. So then we were able to link those assemblies in, maybe not every week. You do a main one and then you might come back to it maybe 3 weeks later. But again, you would have those things, as you just said, Louisa, those main messages that you just keep reinforcing in other assemblies that you would do. So yeah, I think it's about not just thinking we can get the messages across and not worrying too much about it in assembly, sharing it out as best you can. And there's lots of cross links that you can use, but you've got to, it took us a long time to plan and make it work. So you have to invest that time in the first place so that it becomes easy as we go through.
It's a really nice model, actually, to give the children the chance to digest assemblies, because assemblies can be, really valuable messages can be communicated, but it's such a concentrated time. And it's quite intense as well, isn't it, when you've got quite a lot of children all packed in a space. So to then actually have that time to digest it and unpick it together, I think is a really nice format. And it is about echoing the message. So it doesn't always have to be through an assembly. It can be through discussions. It can be through posters. It can be through displays. It can be through staff modelling the pledges that they've chosen as well, and talking about it with students. Caroline.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's very much what we do at Wenniston, even though we haven't sort of started on this project. We were already doing regular assemblies on environment and sustainability, and then linking that in the classroom with some activities. And then maybe the following assembly would be the children presenting what they've done. So, if classes are focusing on something different, then they're sharing that with the whole school. For example, we're planning one on a sustainable Christmas. And so they learn about it in an assembly, and then teachers choose one activity to do in the classroom, and then the children will come and present it and share. So the whole school learns about what activities they can do at home. But it's they're presenting as well, so it's learning and presenting. So those threads of learning about sustainability are going through all of the assemblies that we do on environment. It's probably one a month.
That's really nice, and it gives a sense of the collective power as well, doesn't it? When the students say, we learned about this and then this is what we actually did, and it shows that empowerment, and it's doable, and it's a model that other students could replicate. And it could even be a bit competitive, couldn't it? Who produced the least waste in their classroom this week? I just remember all the raucous cheering, on which house has won, which year group has produced the least waste, or what it might be. But yeah, so some really interesting, really nice ideas there for how to deliver that message to the whole school. So I did mention about the count your carbon calculator could be quite fiddly, quite time consuming. Has anyone found any ways to speed up that process, or to it is just a case of going through the data? I mean, if it is very, very difficult, I know they do produce some generic data, but it's really nice if you can have your own. So would the message be stick with it and persevere? As it does produce nice results that you can really break down and analyze.
Just sorry, on the counting carbon, I mean, Let's Go Zero are keen to support schools if possible doing it. I know that they can't go in and find that data for you, but if you haven't engaged with them and you want some support, please do reach out to Nigel at Let's Go Zero. He's very happy to help.
Thanks, Becca. So engaging the wider school community. So Kirsty, you've highlighted the challenge in receiving communication from busy parents, but also the benefit of letting the children deliver the message, which I really like. And Caroline, perhaps a sustainable Christmas. I don't know how many schools do Christmas type events and whether you've had an opportunity to talk to your PTA about the programme and see if they're able to build it into some of the things they might be doing around Christmas. But events like that are definitely a helpful vehicle for reaching out. And just rather than telling people what they should do, telling them what the school is trying to do, I think. That was another thing that was identified through the review meetings. I think schools were cautious about the family pledges, and what they certainly didn't want to do is sort of preach to families about what they should be doing. But perhaps share with them the actions and the pledges that the school as a collective are trying to do, and if parents are interested in supporting it, what they could do. So yeah, just managing that kind of communication is a delicate operation, I think.
I was just also going to say, like, when Brighton and Hove obviously went through this programme and drove those pledges, the political climate was very different to how it is now. So we appreciate that, and yeah, if we can support you, then that's great. But we do understand it might be a little bit more touchy than it has been in the past.
I think one school had an interesting approach. So they took, I think it's the National Trust produced 50 things to do before you start primary school around outdoor activities, and they shared that with parents. So it was very much, they were honing into that outdoor learning, connection with nature, and they did it through sharing that resource.
Sorry, Louise, I just want to give you, let you know you've got 10 minutes left.
Okay, well, I will skip to the next slide because I think we've talked a little bit about pupil voice through the surveys and through pupils sharing what they've learned from assemblies, if nobody minds. I wanted to share some opportunities. Does everybody here receive the SUSN, the Suffolk Sustainable Schools Network newsletter? Is everybody a member of the network? It comes out half-termly. If you don't think you received that, I'll follow up this call. I'll send you a link where you can sign up to the network. I think there are a few people here that I'm fairly certain are part of the network. But one of the things we do is share opportunities. For example, did you know you can access free trees for schools from the Woodland Trust, that there's free carbon literacy training and water literacy training available by, I think it's the Carbon Literacy Project, and the Water Literacy Project is its own programme. I'll send you this PowerPoint and it has links to all of these opportunities. The newsletter also lists various grants that are available. Running at the moment is the Stobart Group, the Linnean Society of London. They're all offering grants for community actions. Schools are eligible. It can be based around nature. It could be based around sustainability. We also highlight any curriculum resources that are new on the scene. It can be quite overwhelming. So we try and select those ones that are freely accessible, and then we specify if they're more suitable for a secondary setting or a primary setting, and exactly what's entailed in those resources, as well as a bit of a guide. And if you're also part of the network, you're invited to network meetings, which run in a similar format to this. We had one on waste in October. The next one is coming up next week, I think, Rebecca, and it's on energy, and I'll share a link so that you can sign up for that. All the webinars, if you're not able to make them, they're run 4 till 5, so it's that twilight session. But if you're not able to make them, they're all recorded and you can access them through the newsletter as well. And then just topical opportunities. So if COP has come up, if you watch Newsround, or if you use any news-based resources with your young people, and you want to link up some learning to COP, the BBC bite-sized pages have some excellent resources, videos, just to explain what it is and the aims of COP. And then just a few weeks ago was the Earthshot Prize, which I always like to refer to because it really celebrates innovation and solutions and ingenuity and creativity in sustainability. And this year, one of the finalists was from just across the border in Essex, and this company had created a filter that attaches to your washing machine to filter out all the microplastics. So as they are kind of grated off your clothes in the wash, they're captured by this so that they don't go into the water system. So real nice local change maker, innovating for something that seems as simple and rudimentary as your laundry. But again, there's some really nice resources that have been put together by the Earthshot Prize. I think there's a project, resources around that project, so that students are encouraged to think about their own creative solutions to various problems as well. So really nice resources packaged up there. And the Natural History Museum has created a list of climate actions, and you can filter these by benefit and I really like by effort as well. So if you don't have a lot of free time, you can choose a low effort, but that still produces a good benefit. So this might be really nice for students to access, maybe to think about their individual pledges or class pledges or school pledges. And it talks you through the benefit of that action as well, the impact of taking that action. So that's on the Natural History Museum. And again, this PowerPoint will have all the links in the notes, and I'll make sure you have a copy of that. So in terms of programme updates, so for our cohort 2 schools, I'm in the process of booking your in-person review meetings. So Caroline, I've been liaising with head teacher to find a date for Wenniston. Cohort 1 schools, I'm going to send you a Doodle link to book an online review meeting. So this is about 40-minute, half an hour to check in with you, to answer any questions that you might have, but also so that we can start to give some accreditation and some prizes and awards for your efforts against the framework. So we can check off where you're up to, support you if we can with any of your next actions, but also start awarding you for all the actions that you're taking. So the Doodle link should allow you to book a date. I've put all the time slots at 4 p.m. And they run throughout, I think it's late December all the way up to February. So hopefully there'll be a date that's suitable for everyone. And that is online. So hopefully that makes that more accessible. And also just to let you know, and I think I mentioned it in the review meetings, our new website is almost up and running. So this will be a website for all schools. So that network that I mentioned earlier will have access to this, but it will have a section specifically for Our Schools, Our World. So you won't lose any of the resources that are currently saved on the Our Schools, Our World website. The difficulty with that was because it was a bit of a copy and paste from the original Brighton and Hove website. It was quite difficult for us to edit it. So by designing our own, hopefully we'll be able to upload more Suffolk-centric resources, but continue to share with the other hubs across the country as well. So as soon as that is ready, I will share it with you. But if you have any suggestions for what you would like to see on that website beyond what currently exists, or if you want to share a success story, a case study, we would love to share them and host them on that website. So please do get in touch. One thing that will be new, so going back to how I began this presentation, I would like to try and find all those good news stories that I can post up there. That solution focus, looking at change makers, so you can reference it and have something to feature in your assemblies or your display boards or your class discussions. And then a couple of reminders. So there was, and I'm not sure if this is true for any of the schools that are here, but there was some confusion with two of the arms of the programme, greening the curriculum and those thematic topics. So I think some schools had kind of fallen into the trap, and perhaps I hadn't explained it very clearly, of thinking they had to green the curriculum to fit the topic that they were running for that term. That's not true. You can green the curriculum in whichever way best fits that curricula. It doesn't have to focus on waste or water. The whole school delivery of the topics is one arm. greening the curriculum is a separate arm. So please don't think you've got to shoehorn energy into a DT lesson where actually it would be much better to talk about sustainable materials, for example. So just to clarify that point. Again, just a reminder that this is not a race. It's a 2-year cycle and it builds. So there are some fantastic ideas that have been generated, but don't make your life too hard for yourselves. Do take a couple of actions at a time and really focus on them, embed them, keep your other actions, bank them, ready for when you cycle around to that topic again. Do keep in touch with your regular touch with your sustainability working group so that you have got that support so that you can delegate any tasks or actions. Stay solutions focused. I think that's a real mantra of the programme. You know, we want children to be really excited about their future, to understand that there are some challenges, but there are people working really hard and coming up with amazing, innovative things to overcome those challenges so that they're excited to be part of that. And again, just a plea, if you would like to share any resources, if you tweak the assembly PowerPoints or you don't use a PowerPoint in assembly, but you have a lovely kind of visual tip for communicating a concept to students, if you've had a really brilliant class project, if you've brought in someone external to give a talk and they were fantastic and you would like to share that person with the hub, please, please, please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Also, just to flag, this is a little bit of a one-off opportunity, but the Suffolk Schools Sustainable team have partnered with Groundwork for energy audits for secondary schools, and they've been able to allocate some places for primary schools. So Groundwork East do lots and lots of auditing with businesses and with schools. So it's a really nice opportunity, again, to consolidate or complement some of the data from the Count Your Carbon calculator and the audits. They go around and do a thorough inspection of the whole school site, and then they produce a report for you to analyse. We've only got, I think it's only 3 or 4 spaces left on this funded audit. So if there's about 3 or 4 of you here, it could be all of you. If you are interested, if I could ask you please to either contact me or the Sussan email address. And then we can look at organising that for you at a date convenient for you. And then finally, Rebecca, I don't know if you want to talk about these upcoming events.
Yeah, was it just the network, just the conference?
Conference and then our next network meeting as well.
Okay, great. All right, I'm just going to share, if you stop sharing, Louise, I'll just share the agenda very quickly for the conference. So this, I hope you can see that. This is the poster for the conference. So it's on the 22nd of June next year at the Food Museum in Stowmarket. Just like last year, it's for primary, secondaries, FE, anyone, any school staff that are interested in sustainability. But I just wanted to give you a sneak peek of the agenda, which I will be sending out. But basically, we've got University College London, their sustainability education lead is coming. We've got a youth speaker just like last year, and then those are the workshops. So we're going to do an interactive game just like we did last time, but this time on biodiversity and nature recovery. We've got Energy Sparks and the Green Schools Project talking about decarbonisation. We're looking at policy, we're looking at climate education. You know, we've tried to really build on what we covered last year. So if you can make it, please do. Those are all the organisations involved. And there is an early bird discount, sorry. So if you can book before March, then it's £35 per ticket. And if you fill in the invoice form, then you won't have to pay the Eventbrite fees. And obviously you can reclaim your VAT. So that's the conference. And also, yeah, so next week, just like Louisa said, we've got the network meeting on energy. And we've got Suffolk County Council coming. They're talking about their solar panels for schools. which they did say, obviously secondaries are taking priority, but they're working through a list. So if you are interested, you can express interest, and then they will get back to you when your school comes round. We've also got the carbon reduction team at the council coming. We've got Nigel from Let's Go Zeros talking about all the support that they offer in terms of the wider decarbonisation, and we've got the carbon literacy project introducing the tools they've got for for training staff, but also students in carbon literacy. So should be a really good meeting. So I hope to see you there. I will send out a link in the follow-up email. Now I realise we're 2 minutes over, so I'm going to say goodbye, but thank you so much for coming, and I'll hand over to Louise to just say goodbye.
Thanks, Becca. Thanks all. So yes, really iterate that. Thanks. Really, really grateful for you taking the time this evening in what's always busy. When isn't it busy? Half term. And I will use the C word now because I might not see all of you before the event. Wish you a lovely rest of the half term and a very Merry Christmas.